Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. We are back. Part 2, UFC 285, the big one. MMA Sucka Podcast. My name's Tim Wheaton, joined as always by Frazer Krohn. Frazer, what's going on today?
Yeah, like we said yesterday when we recorded our weekend review, we had to give a whole episode to this card because it is an absolute... I mean, from top to bottom, I was looking at it again. We know the card was great. I looked at it again this morning. It's like, wow, this is a really good card. So I'm just excited to jump straight into it and break it down with you.
Absolutely. I'll set the table a little bit. I'll offer a few different ideas and then take it away. I know we've been doing a lot of tape study and stuff like that, but let me set the table a little bit. Jon Jones vacated his light heavyweight title 3 years ago after being unanimously crowned top 3 greatest of all time. Controversy or not, he's 1, 2, or 3. Doesn't matter where you stand on all the other accusations. He never has problems inside the cage. All of his problems stem from things outside the cage. Coming into this fight, he's going to be fighting the former interim champion, Ciryl Gane, at heavyweight. He's a man who matches him in size. Jon Jones will again have a reach advantage in this fight, which is quite typical for his career, but still going up to heavyweight. First time in history. He's older than he ever has been. I think in his career, he's beaten like 6 or 7 former UFC champions during his run. He had a legendary run in his time, but I think this is the most important fight of his career because I think his legacy is up for grabs. Not and to compare it to a very similar situation with Georges St. Pierre, when he went up in weight to fight Michael Bisping, his legacy was already cemented. Jon Jones, with how many controversies he's had, I think he needs this win to really put him on that Mount Rushmore. But maybe I'm wrong here. What do you think, Frazer?
No, I completely agree. And you know, this heavyweight move has been rumored
for 10 years. 10 years. He beat Shogun and said, I'm going to go up to heavyweight.
Exactly. And, you know, I think in a way he's done it right. He's not done a Israel Adesanya going up in weight and just hoping that his skill sort of prevails. Obviously, it's completely different with the fact that people can weigh in anywhere between, 207 pounds and 265. But you've got to ask, yes, he's put the size on for heavyweight, but has it been too long since, 2013 rumored to be going up to heavyweight? That's fine. He obviously was able to make light heavyweight and have the more of a size advantage over the guy. Daniel Cormier, his biggest rival to date. Mm-hmm. Daniel Cormier has the 72-inch reach advantage. Jon Jones sits at, I think, 83 or 84-inch. So, he had a 12-inch reach advantage over Daniel Cormier, who himself is, let's be honest, was a heavyweight that didn't want to face Cain Velasquez because he was a teammate.
Yes.
I'm slightly worried for Jon Jones, not that with regards to the fight itself, but if he loses, I feel that he's maybe wasted 3 years of his career really putting on the size, really putting on the weight, really, making himself into a heavyweight. To then potentially, it's a tough matchup against Ciryl Gane to then lose out on 3 years of your career when, his career, let's be honest, hasn't gone how we thought it would be when he beat Shogun for the belt back in 2011. He's 21 years old, I believe, or 23. I can't remember.
That,
yeah, youngest ever UFC champion.
Yeah.
His career, in my opinion, hasn't gone the way that we all thought it might when he captured the belt. He's had this, he's had the time off after facing Daniel Cormier the first time. He's had the time off after facing Daniel Cormier the second time. He's had the pull out of UFC 200. He's had the last, I think, was it fight week that the Gustafsson 2 fight changed from Vegas to California because of the picogram gate, should we call it? He's then, then we thought we were finally getting Jon Jones. He had competed in the December of 2018, the March of 2019, the July of 2019, the February of 2020. And we thought this is right. We're back to prime Jon Jones. He's just put a stamp on that Gustafsson rivalry in the second fight when he finishes him in the third round. He looked vicious in there with that ground and pound. A tough watch, because everyone likes Alexander Gustafsson, one of the good guys of the sport, but he just put manners on Gustafsson. And then the Anthony Smith fight, a little bit flat, but he still dominated the fight. Then the Thiago Santos fight, a little bit flat, but he still won the fight. The Dominic Reyes fight, very flat. Did he win the fight? We're thinking, okay, maybe, is it going to be the next time Jon Jones maybe is just too flat for this weight anymore. That was 3 years ago.
I know.
If he comes back and is still flat against the Ciryl Gane, who is, I'd say, maybe the quickest, if not the second quickest heavyweight behind Tom Aspinall with his hands. He's probably he's the best kicker at heavyweight. He's the best, without a doubt, the best mover at heavyweight. He moves like a middleweight. If Jon Jones is flat, especially with the extra weight on his frame, could be a long night and a wasted 3 years for Jon Jones. But we'll have to wait and see on Saturday night, which is what makes the fight so good and so intriguing.
There's so many moving parts to this matchup, just like you were listing there. There's just so many different variables of Jon Jones, of what could happen. Hey, it's only like this is going up on Wednesday. Who knows what could happen between now and Saturday? There's so many different variables, even just on that alone. There's so many variables with Jon Jones' age going up to heavyweight. So let's boil it down to the most simplest idea that I can offer, and then we can really get into the nitty gritty. One thing, this was brought up because you brought up the 3 most recent fights where he looked kind of flat. It's weird to see people on Instagram and Twitter talking about oh, it's Return of the King, the Lion is back. Have you guys seen Jon Jones fight lately?
You're only as good as your last fight. You're only as good as your last fight.
I think what happens in online spheres is people just watch highlights and then they kind of forget what the actual fight was like. You know what I mean? Of none of those highlights are the most recent 3. Anyway, so let's boil it down to the most simplest. And then we can start from there. In a pure kickboxing, Muay Thai, or even boxing fight, I think this is an easy fight for Ciryl Gane. In any sort of wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, submission, grappling fight, this is an easy matchup for Jon Jones. That's as simple as I can make it. On the ground, it is such an easy fight for Jon Jones. Standing up, it is a kind of an easy fight for Ciryl Gane, in all honesty. I know a lot of people are like, hey, Jon Jones has pretty good stand-up. He has okay stand-up. He has all right. He's one shot, and he moves out of the way. He's very good at distance control and framing off, and he's pretty good at kicks. I'll give him that much. However, I don't want to get into it too much. But it's going to be a matter of how he performs at heavyweight, how his age looks, can he still get the takedowns, all that sort of stuff. Frazer, start us off, get into the nitty-gritty. Let's get it going.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I completely agree with everything you're saying. And just to touch on the first point that you made, it's only what Tuesday today.
Yeah.
So, and
yeah,
I'm not sure if Dana White has the faith, because why else would he be having Sergey Pavlovich weigh in as an alternate for the heavyweight main event? That came out, I think, last night.
Yeah.
There was rumors it would be Stipe, but I know that Stipe is going to be in attendance. There was rumors it would be Curtis Blades. Again, he'll be in attendance, but none of them will be officially weighing in for the bout.
Yeah.
This doesn't, there's no alternate for the flyweight co-main event. I know it's slightly different because it's the main event and whatnot, but there's no alternate. There was no alternate for Alexander Volkanovski and Makhachev. Yes, there was lightweight fights on the card, but there was no alternate.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Kind of tells you all you need to say. But no, yeah, going into the into sort of commenting on the point that you just made.
Yeah,
stand up. I completely agree. I think stand up Ciryl Gane is, if you look down his record, the guys that he's struggled with. He did struggle with Francis Ngannou, who you'd say is a stand-up guy, but Francis Ngannou wrestled him.
Yep. In
the first two and a half rounds. Ciryl Gane was piecing Francis Ngannou up, hence the takedown from Francis Ngannou from the third round, I think it was. I was double check that because I don't want to.
No, I think
misspeak.
It was third round because he turned the fight around then.
Yeah, so the first two rounds. Francis Ngannou did not attempt a single takedown. He was outstruck in both of those 2 rounds. Then the third round, fourth round, and fifth round. Third round and fourth round, Francis Ngannou lands the takedowns, and then the fifth round, Ciryl Gane gets a takedown, but Ngannou has more control, which kind of tells you all you need to know about Ciryl Gane's stand-up is that we haven't seen him struggle. Tai Tuivasa last time out, Tai Tuivasa was never gonna shoot for a takedown, which made it a fairly, yes, he was dropped in that fight, but that just says more about the power of Tai Tuivasa, that he was never going to look to take Ciryl Gane down. What does worry me slightly is that obviously we've had the quote from Ciryl Gane saying, I don't train in between fights. I train when I've got a fight booked. If he hasn't been training for Jon Jones, Jon Jones is just going to ankle pick him in the first 10 seconds, take him down and maul him. That's what I'm worried about, that it will be, just a blowout in favor of Jon Jones. But, I think we know what Jon Jones is like. He's arrogant in the best possible sense of the word. I think he'll stand with Ciryl Gane for as long as he wants to, and then he'll probably try and look to take the fight down. I think he'll want to feel the heavyweight frame, so he might, like we said about Tatiana Suarez last weekend. I think he'll stand with Ciryl Gane to feel how a heavyweight kind of feels a little bit. He'll get into the clinch a little bit, see how much stronger Gane is. We've seen the guys that Jon Jones has been training with the greatest respect, they're not the elite sparring partners that you'd expect. We've got Dante Miles, Maurice Green.
They're the
and Walt Harris.
There's the idea in training that sometimes you bring in sparring partners for confidence, and I think that's what Jon Jones may have done.
I mean, obviously he's having the looks and the feels of these guys with regards to the physical size of them, but skill for skill, Ciryl Gane wipes the floor with probably all of them in a single night. It's I think, like I say, I think Jon Jones is arrogant enough that he'll stand with Ciryl Gane until he feels that he doesn't have to anymore, and then he'll be able to take it down, which is a crazy thing to say when we're talking about the top level of MMA. But he can take Ciryl Gane down with ease, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk about it, because that is going to be the hinge of the fight. That is going to decide basically how this fight is going to go. So a couple of things. Jon Jones, in his entire UFC career, has never been heavyweight. He actually makes light heavyweight quite easily. He's never struggled with weight. Even during his junior college wrestling career, he was never heavyweight. He's never been a big guy in his entire career. This is the first time that he's going to be doing anything athletic with a heavyweight frame, with a heavyweight body. So it becomes a question of, and we'll add in the point that Ed Gallo brought up, and we talked to Melissa Dixon about it, of if you weren't drilling wrestling for 5 years, do you lose those skills? Do those skills fade over time? I don't know. And how will he perform at heavyweight? Will his cardio, make it out? I think if we saw it pound for pound style, regardless of adding muscle, I think Jon Jones can probably get the takedown just in the same way that he did Alexander Gustafsson. But then we bring in the factors: age, heavyweight, maybe not drilling wrestling for a few years there. Let's go from there. Are all those factors still there, Frazer? What do you think?
This is it. This is the question. I know if we spoke to Dominic Cruz, he'd say, "Oh, ring rust doesn't exist." But we saw it with Tatiana Suarez. I don't think, after we spoke about it yesterday, I've sort of reflected on it. I don't think that was age cut. That was just ring rust. She's been out, but she's been out injured, which is a difference between her and Jones.
True.
So she maybe has a little bit more ring rust than we'd expect from Jon Jones, because obviously he hasn't had any, he didn't sort of semi-retire due to injury, semi-retired due to wanting to put on size and outside the octagon influences, should we say. But, just looking down their records now, Jon Jones has had one fight since July of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Ciryl Gane has had, literally, he's had, he debuted in August 2019 in the UFC.
He's had a career,
He's had eight wins and one loss, including, multiple headliners. He's used to his frame lasting for 25 minutes.
Yep.
Is he used to his frame lasting 25 minutes when he has to constantly wrestle? Is the question, sort of, bringing back to the point that you made. If he's not drilling wrestling for, if he's not sort of having a 25-minute wrestling match, hypothetically, in sparring and training, which, like we say, he has said that he doesn't train in between fights. That's when you level up your game.
And he didn't go to AKA for this. He didn't train stateside, as you and I talk about so much. He stayed where he was. That's not a great sign. How
good is the sort of the wrestling? I'm not denying that he's probably got really good wrestling coaches, but how good is the pool of wrestlers that you can get over to France on fairly short notice? This fight hasn't been booked for 6 months.
Yeah.
This is, was it this year? Maybe we saw the leaked pictures. I can't remember when this fight was officially announced, but you're talking sort of, you're in a 10-week camp maximum, I'd say. And for Ciryl Gane to admit that he doesn't train, we can only take what all fighters say with a pinch of salt. But for Ciryl Gane to say that he doesn't train in between fights, like you said, we spoke to Melissa Dixon about it, and everyone, all the fighters we speak to, they admit that they don't sort of learn new tricks in training camp. Training camp is about getting the weight down, working on a specific game plan for their opponent. they learn the new tricks and they level up in between camps because they've got this, 6 months, or in Jones's case, 3 years, but because they've got all this time off. So from September, I think it's September 3rd, Ciryl Gane's last performance in Paris. He him and his coaches know that he's an elite striker. Probably outstrikes anyone in the heavyweight division.
Yes.
So put that on the back burner. You're not going to forget those skills. The first, let's say he doesn't hit pads for 2 months. He's not going to then go in there and look like an amateur. He's going to still have that ingrained. It's a muscle memory. It's a lifestyle of striking, a lifetime of striking. He just needs to. He should, in my opinion, he should have from September the 5th. You have September the 4th off. You just be in your home country of France. He needs to be drilling wrestling. With the greatest respect to Francis Ngannou, his wrestling skills are amateurish in comparison to someone of a Jon Jones, a Curtis Blades. These guys are heavyweight. How much, Jon Jones used to take guys down with relative ease at light heavyweight.
Yep. And like
that's
accredited
that's a skill thing.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like, these are Rashad Evans. These were like background wrestlers, Daniel Cormier's and stuff like that. These were accredited wrestlers. Go ahead. Sorry.
He's taking these guys down at light heavyweight, and that's when the guys are, he hasn't got a massive weight advantage over these guys. I'm not saying that he'll have a weight advantage over Ciryl Gane, but it's a skill. The skill deficit, I think, is going to be really what sort of pays dividends for Jon Jones in this one. Is he is going to have that extra weight, so he's going to be able to run the pipe just a little bit, with that bit more power. Yes, Ciryl Gane's going to have more power coming back the other way, but it's a skill thing for me. I think Jon Jones is probably one of the most naturally skilled people that we've seen. So if he's really, where is Jon Jones in his career at the moment? If he's really dialed in, I think it will be a long, long night in the wrestling realm for Ciryl Gane. But like I said, he might be arrogant and look to stand with Ciryl Gane. You think he's the best striker at heavyweight. Welcome back, Jon Jones.
Yeah, Jon Jones, like you said, with the reason that he was so obviously the next in line for being the champion, even when we saw him when he was I think he made his UFC debut at 21 and won the championship in 2023, but it was always obvious that he was the champion because you could see him making very sound decisions even before he was training at Jackson Wink. Like, he just trained out of his hometown with his high school team, and he was still outstriking people who had way more experience than him. He seems to understand a lot of the setups and a lot of these kind of defensively being very defensively sound. He understands a lot of things naturally, and that's why he's very dangerous on the feet. Now, earlier I said he's not great on the feet. He is effective at what he does with the framings, with the kicks, with the elbows. He's very effective with those techniques because it is usually techniques for a reason. He's trying to build to something else, and that's saying a lot. He's not trying to strike with guys. He's trying to strike with them and build to something else. So your official prediction is Jon Jones wins via decision?
I think you can. The thing is with the prediction is that I think Jon Jones wins by decision. That's my prediction.
Right.
Fairly comfortably. However, I think a lot of his, like you say, his certain movements to framing the elbows, especially that oblique kick, can lead him to getting clipped big by Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane isn't going to be flat-footed. He's the best mover, despite the fact he's heavier than Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos used to make middleweight. Ciryl Gane's got to cut off a limb to make middleweight. And yet he's still a better, quicker mover, in my opinion, than both of those guys.
Yes.
If Jones misses an oblique kick, which is he puts all his weight into those oblique kicks, so he's stepping right into Ciryl Gane's range. With someone like a Dominic Reyes, who isn't a great mover, he's more, he's not going to be a guy that sort of steps out of range and manages to get back in range straight away. If Jones misses with an oblique kick, which is a very real possibility against Ciryl Gane, who, as we know, is on his toes for 25 minutes if needs be.
Yep.
He misses an oblique kick, he's right in Ciryl Gane's range for the elbows. Ask Junior Dos Santos. Yep. Ciryl Gane can slam an elbow. Is he going to be able to get into Ciryl Gane's range to frame off and land, Jones is, cutting elbows, he's spinning elbows that we're used to him. The knees how he beat up Glover Teixeira, how he obviously got the guillotine against Lyoto Machida, how he did, he didn't do that well against Daniel Cormier in the clinch. If you remember, Daniel Cormier knocked his gum shield. I think that was the first round in their rematch, or first or second round anyway. And let's not forget that's Daniel Cormier, who's a good Greco-Roman wrestler, but he's not a traditional Muay Thai clinch kind of guy.
Different clinch altogether. Yeah,
exactly. With Daniel Cormier in the clinch, you're worried about being taken down. But Ciryl Gane in the clinch, you're worried about him slamming a knee into your face. I mean, like I say, my official prediction is Jon Jones by decision, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Ciryl Gane caught him and maybe even finished him. It could be a sort of Tai Tuivasa type finish where he just hits a big counter and catches Jones unawares and just separates him from consciousness that much to be able to then throw the extra shots and get the referee involved. It's a fascinating matchup. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that ideally Ciryl Gane could counter extremely well because of his Muay Thai background. But I want to be completely frank with that Muay Thai background. Yes, he was a Muay Thai world champion, and he beat the #1 ranked heavyweight in Muay Thai. Please understand how thin that entire division is. It's heavyweight Muay Thai. There's like 8 guys worldwide who would do it at any one point. I mean, it's not the biggest feather in your cap. It's not winning a Muay Thai title under lightweight. You know what I mean? Where like
that's exactly. Yeah.
But ideally, like I think like a teep kick, especially to the knee, or an elbow, or a clinch. These are Muay Thai techniques that you would think someone like a Buakaw, if he was a heavyweight, oh man, he'd run the pike against Jon Jones with those techniques. Maybe Ciryl Gane does have those techniques. I haven't seen him counter those directly, so I can't say for sure. I would like to think he can, because he does come from a Muay Thai. Did he do Savat as well?
I believe
nothing there, but maybe he did some Savat.
Something that I've heard. Maybe it was an interview, but I've heard him speaking about it, and it would make sense, the sort of on the toes, sort of almost. He kind of has a mixture between the Muay Thai and the sort of karate style, as it were. Do you know what I mean? He uses that in and out movement, and some of the shots that he throws aren't normal shots. We saw against Tai Tuivasa in September. It's not just a sort of teep kick down the middle. It kind of comes round and sort of on the curve. So when he lands, even if he misses, his foot is never. He doesn't have to go back. Sort of. I know it sounds ridiculous, but he doesn't have to go like put his leg up, hit his opponent, and come back to a stance position. He kind of comes round, almost like a reverse roundhouse teep kick to the. I can't even describe it, but the way that he throws it means that even if he misses, he's there probably putting the left hand behind if he does it off the lead, obviously, or likewise if he does it with his left foot, he comes round and he can land the right hook, or he can get under the clinch. Mm-hmm. He's so quick when he throws these strikes. We rarely see him really off balance. And I think when he did get knocked down by Tai Tuivasa, yes, Jon Jones, we've never seen him at heavyweight, but I just don't think that Jon Jones is going to have that power. Tai Tuivasa cuts to 165 and is a natural, humongous guy who is a natural heavy hitter. Jon Jones, it's not like he was getting knockout after knockout after knockout at light heavyweight and then has just put on some size and his power will carry through. Mm-hmm. McGregor is completely different. His power is carried up to lightweight. It's carried up to welterweight because he's got that freakish power at 145. He obviously then, freakish power against Eddie Alvarez. Jon Jones hasn't shown that. He's just shown, a lot more skill than anyone at 205. Is that going to be a factor that even if he is landing on Ciryl Gane, it's not really having an effect? Ciryl Gane's been in there for 25 minutes with Francis Ngannou, the hardest hitting heavyweight that we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. He's been in there for best part of 15 odd minutes with Tai Tuivasa, one of the hardest hitting guys we've ever seen. Jairzinho Rosenstruik, he's managed to avoid his big strikes. Junior Dos Santos, phenomenal boxer. Derek Lewis, insane heavy hitter. Alexander Volkov, a kind of point fighter, but who knows how to crack. Ciryl Gane knows how to avoid the strikes of these huge hitters. And I don't think Jon Jones is a huge hitter. So if Jon Jones is, I can almost see Jon Jones, landing on Ciryl Gane, not quite getting the outcome that he expects now that he's this big, scary heavyweight that's been doing squats for 3 years and deadlifts for 3 years and all this, and getting a little bit frustrated that Ciryl Gane still stood there in front of him, bouncing up and down on his toes. But, like I say, I do think Jon Jones will win by decision. And arguably, just because if you look, Ciryl Gane's had 12 professional fights.
It's not much.
Jon Jones has had 27. He's had double the amount of fights. I think
he's had
Jon
12
Jones will.
He's had like 12 title matches in his career.
I think more than he hasn't had a title fight since. He hasn't not had a title fight. Since he beat Shogun.
2011, yeah.
5, 6, 7.
It was Ryan Bader as well. Was his last non-title fight. Like, it's a pretty good run this guy's got.
This will be his 16th straight title fight.
Yeah,
he's had more title fights than Ciryl Gane has had professional MMA fights, and I think that might pay dividends. Like I say, if Jon Jones finds himself 1 or 2 rounds down, he probably just snatches a leg and makes it a little bit boring and says, "Look, it's my first fight at heavyweight. I'm back now. Bring on Stipe in July. Bring on Curtis Blades and Pavlovich winner in August." I think that's the kind of thing that he does. He says, "Look, let's not forget that his last 3 fights were pretty forgettable. He hasn't got a fight of the night since the Daniel Cormier first fight, and then the Alexander Gustafsson fight before that, the first one between them two. So he's not in these all-out wars, and I think he's willing to make it a little bit of a quote-unquote boring fight just to get the job done, which is I don't have a problem with. Khabib kind of made a career out of it before he started finishing guys. So.
But I'll pick the exact opposite. I'm going to take the other gamble of I don't think Jon Jones still has it. I don't think he's going to translate very well to heavyweight. And I think those 2 factors. I think his wrestling is going to struggle with the strength. And I do think I think he was out of shape 3 years ago and struggling with motivation. So I'm going to pick the other gamble. And maybe I'm entirely wrong, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think Ciryl Gane's just going to pick him apart from range. I think Jon Jones is going to slow down in the later rounds. I don't think there's going to be a finish in this fight. Either guys are not like, there's just no history of these guys getting knocked out. But yeah, I'm going to pick the other gamble. I don't see, I'm doubting. It's so hard to make a comeback after years away. It is so hard to make that comeback happen, especially if you're not active and you're not in the gym every day. You know what I mean? Of like, this guy was just doing squat training for like 2 years from the look of his Instagram. You know what I mean?
So and it's not even like a comeback. It's a comeback at another weight class. And it's not just a comeback at like Tatiana Suarez where she's adding, she's just not cutting 10 pounds. He's adding, there's rumors that Jones will come in as a heavier guy and have to cut down to 265. He's adding 60 odd pounds onto a frame that, yes, he's big and he's long, but if his legs, everyone's always said that he's got skinny legs. He's adding 60 odd pounds onto a frame that's maybe not built for 265. Even seeing the clips and footage that we've had out that we've seen this week, he looks big up top, and then he's kind of just narrows out towards the bottom, which maybe that's just his frame, and he will be able to hold that frame.
Sure.
I'm not so convinced.
We'll see, and that's an interesting thing. It's not like welterweight. So, and Georges St. Pierre, again, very similar situation. He was big for welterweight, and I guess Jon is definitely big for light heavyweight. But jumping welterweight to middleweight is a lot less than jumping light heavyweight to heavyweight. Essentially, Georges St. Pierre would have to jump to heavyweight for an equivalent weight, 50 pounds. Like, he would have to be back up at heavyweight, or it would have to be at heavyweight for it to be an equivalent thing. 50 pounds, 60 pounds is a massive difference in this game, right? It's huge.
Exactly. And we don't see it. We see, like I say, we see Conor McGregor go from 145 to 150 to 170, and he just didn't cut weight any weight. Yeah. And then he went back down to 155, and then he went up to 170, and we had Israel Adesanya go up 20 pounds, not really put on 20 pounds, and saw quite literally, we saw the issues that brought with it. Henry Cejudo goes up in weight by 10 pounds. Alexander Volkanovski, goes up in weight by 10 pounds. We don't see these guys put on 60 pounds, and there's a reason for that. Look at how small Valentina looks. We'll go on to talk about her in a second, but look how small she looks in comparison to Amanda Nunes. That's 10 pounds difference.
Yeah.
This could play a factor.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll just finish. Ciryl Gane. This is Jon Jones in his last three bouts is the first time he looked flat in those ones. That's the first time that someone had matched him height for height. All three of you guys, Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith, and Reyes, all three of them matched him for height. They all had a reach disadvantage, but they matched him for height, and he looked kind of flat. In this case, Ciryl Gane is going to match him for height again, be a little bit bigger across the chest, but I think a little bit shorter across the arms. So that's why I'm picking Ciryl Gane. I'm not overly confident in it because I'm rolling the dice on variables. I think those variables will take effect, and you're kind of on the other side saying like, no, I think those variables won't come into effect. That's a fair prediction. That's
I say
why
that now, and come Saturday night, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, we've beaten it to death. We've talked about all the variables, all the different dice rolls, all the different factors going into that fight. We avoided the GOAT talk because go on Twitter and argue with someone there if that's what you're interested in. But anything else you want to throw on the heavyweight main event before we go to the co-main event?
I think that's it. Like you say, we've spoken through all the variables. Now we move on to the co-main event where there isn't too many variables from what I can see. I'll be honest, I haven't done an awful lot of tape study because these are two girls that I like watching fight because, you know, Valentina Shevchenko, probably the crispest mixed martial artist that we have. You know, her technique is phenomenal. We rarely see her, you know, she'll do a spinning wheel kick and land exactly where she started. Alexa Grasso has come on leaps and bounds. She looks, you know, so much better now that she's up at 125. I think she's undefeated at 125. With that being said, it's a struggle. It's a struggle for me to see how Alexa Grasso wins this one. No disrespect, but you know, she just hasn't had the competition, in my opinion, that Valentina has. Yes, Valentina, again, you know, like we were just talking about with Jon Jones, did look flat in her last one. But look what happens. You know, she looked slightly flat against Jennifer Maia. And look what happens after that. She goes out there and absolutely kills Jessica Andrade, kills Lauren Murphy, and then she has another flat performance. Are we going to see her bounce back the other way and kill Alexa Grasso? We'll have to see. But for me, it's a little bit of a struggle to see how Alexa Grasso gets it done. I just think where she's best, Valentina is just better.
Yeah, we're not talking about variables, are we? We're not talking about what ifs. We're just like, I think Valentina's skills are better. Alexa Grasso's main skill set, her very kind of great crisp boxing on the feet, which has gotten better fight over fight. I think it's very easy to picture Valentina actually is better at her strength. You know what I mean? Even if this was a boxing match, we might still pick Valentina Shevchenko. We might be unfair because Alexa Grasso has also improved a lot in between each fight. So if we kind of keep that same trajectory of improvements, you still probably pick Valentina. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. And, you know, if you just look at the stats alone, kind of tell you everything you need to know is, yes, Valentina lands less strikes at 3.19 to Alexa Grasso's 5.14. But there's not, you know, that's, so you're talking 2 strikes per minute more on Alexa Grasso's side. But then you've got to think about the kind of strikes that Valentina Shevchenko's landing. Yeah. Yes, she might be landing 2 strikes less, but in those, you know, 3.19 strikes, she's whipping a vicious body kick. She's you know, really slapping the outside leg. She's really looking at injuring that calf. And then you look at the strikes absorbed per minute, and Alexa Grasso absorbs 4 strikes per minute, as opposed to Valentina, who's just under 2. Yeah, she lands less strikes, but Alexa Grasso absorbs more strikes. And I know it's, you know, it's you can't judge a fight by numbers, but the numbers are there for a reason. Facts are facts. Alexa Grasso absorbs 4.02 strikes per minute. Against Valentina Shevchenko, that's a lot. Against anyone, that's not an awful lot. You know, if you're facing someone who's not a traditional striker, let's say Tatiana Suarez, I mean, she did face Tatiana Suarez, but the strikes will be slightly, I forget about, but the strikes will be slightly skewed on that because, you know, she outstruck Tatiana Suarez 21-4. But Tatiana Suarez took her down twice and locked in the rear naked choke. I think that was in Mexico City years ago now, when, you know, Maia versus Usman for context. The less said about that fight, the better.
Yeah. Tatiana Suarez is so good, is what we can conclude from breaking down this fight.
But then you think, you know, Alexa Grasso has made real good leaps and bounds in a submission game. You know, she's got the submission over Joanne Calderwood. But then you look at her takedowns, she's 0.44 takedowns per 15 minutes. So she enjoys sort of life on the feet.
Mhm.
And she got a takedown defense of 64%. Now, what that kind of tells me is that when it gets to the floor, if it gets to the floor, she's good, she's solid. You know, ask Joanne Calderwood, she got choked out in the first round. That's her only submission to date. Despite the fact that we know she's good on the floor, that's her only submission to date. And Joanne Calderwood, with the greatest respect, you know, has shown that that's where the hole is in her game. You know, she's got 2 rear naked choke losses on the bounce. She's got an armbar loss. She's got a guillotine loss. You know, she got another armbar loss further down in her career. So that's where the hole comes in Jon Calderwood's game. But when the fight hits the floor, Alexa Grasso is dangerous, but I think she's going to look to keep this one standing and look to try and outpoint Valentina on the feet,
Yes.
which is something we've never seen from anybody before. The 2 fights that she struggled in, Jennifer Meyer, where she didn't even struggle in that. She just lost a round, which was kind of new to see. And the Talia Santos fight, they both gave her problems on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, Grasso gets so much better in between fights. How much better can you get in between fights? Can you get up to the striking level of a Valentina Shevchenko? I'm not convinced that she can, I'm afraid.
Yeah, when you like the fewer variables, so I think the easiest way to boil it down is to use what Heavy Hands has talked about as the A and B game. So if you do A game versus A game, who wins? Well, Valentina. If you do B game versus B game, who wins? Valentina. You know what I mean? Like there's just not, Grasso doesn't have the ability to exploit Valentina's weaknesses, and she doesn't have the ability to exploit to beat her in her own strengths. I just don't think that's the style to beat Valentina. However, if Alexa Grasso does get it done, it would be amazing. Like what a like an underdog story, where she started in MMA to where she is now, what that would mean for the country of Mexico. There is a ton of, and she's kind of a really nice person too. Like in interviews, she's a sweetheart, but like that would be a miracle. I would argue like that's a tougher fight. That's a very hard fight. It's a very hard pick. I wouldn't confidently even put money as like, oh, I'm happy to lose $100, but maybe she'll win. You know what I mean? I might just lose 100.
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at and that's probably, if you just look at the past 4 fights of Alexa Grasso, yes, she's undefeated at 125. Jeon Kim was her first fight at 125, went to a decision. Since then, Kim has lost 3 straight, and arguably shouldn't be in the UFC anymore, is what it is. Macy Barber, that's a good win. However, that's Macy Barber coming off a year's ACL surgery, and that's that strange fight where Macy Barber just
she
stood out of range. She didn't know. I don't think that you were meant to hit your opponent. She was just kind of throwing strikes and ki-eyeing out of range. It is what it is. Joanne Calderwood, I think it's a really good win, but Joanne Calderwood unfortunately isn't at the level that she once was. I think she's slightly on the decline. I do see her actually retiring in London if she gets to win over Luana Carolina. And then Viviane Araújo last time out, I think that's a phenomenal win. You know, Hansa
absolutely
only a 4th professional loss. You know, third in the UFC, but you know,
and style wise, it was very important as well. Like it was A game versus A game, and she beat her. That's great.
Exactly. I just think, you know, and like you said, for the country of Mexico, you know, you've got Brandon Moreno, you've got Yaya Rodriguez having won the interim, 2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Amazing. Seriously.
For me, it's just a real, like you say, it's a real tough sell.
Yeah, Valentina does a couple of things really well, and I'll quickly list them off. We've talked about them on the show before, but she's like a very if-then kind of fighter of like, I'll beat you on the feet. If you get close, I'm happy to clinch and do like a toss or a sweep. No problem there. If I'm on top on the ground, I'm dominant. Like she's very easy of like, she's very good at, if you think you can beat her there, she has something there. She's always if-then. She's a very good, like calculated fighter, and she styles on people. Anyway, should we move on? I don't think there's anything else we can get out of that one.
Unfortunately, I think that is it. I like Valentina. I'd like Alexa Grasso to win because it's just something new for the division. It's another Mexican champion, and like you say, she seems like a really not that Valentina doesn't seem like a nice person, but Valentina is a vicious human being. But Shavkat Rakhmonov time.
Shavkat time. Man, I'm pumped for this. I am excited for this. He was one of the keep your eye on this guy, undefeated hype machine. but he's so polite. He's so nice. He doesn't have the same hype machine that Khamzat Chimaev had, but they essentially have the same kind of background. And Shavkat is just like these are now the wins in the top 10 that we're going to be talking about. It's like, man, remember when he did that? That was incredible. I have no doubt he's going to beat Geoff Neal, but tell me a little bit more about this Frazer Krohn.
He's 16-0 with 16 finishes. And it's not like he's got 16 knockouts, so he's just got really heavy hands, but when it hits the floor, he's got 8 knockouts and 8 submissions.
Yep. He's a flipping talent.
On paper, he's better than Khamzat Chimaev, but because he doesn't call and say that he's going to smash everyone and all this, he's doing it the right way. He's doing,
he's crawling through the ranks. He's not jumping to Gilbert, which, I mean, that's a great win for Khamzat. We should, that Gilbert Burns is an amazing win. That's a great win. But however,
to start with, Alex Oliveira choke him out. Very good win.
Yes.
Then he had 2 maybe where he should have maybe fought up a little bit, but I think he had a couple of pullouts or a couple of sort of late notice ones. Then Neal Magny. Yep. No one beats Neal Magny with ease. Shavkat beat Neal Magny with ease. With ease. We're talking like ease. He was never in it. It was never a problem. And now Geoff Neal, he withdrew from the main event slot. I think what was that, to beginning of January? I think that was second or third card of the year in January. He now rematches Geoff Neal in a 3-round fight. If I was Geoff Neal, I would have wanted a 5-round fight. A, because I would have got more money, but B, because I want to see what Shavkat's like if you have to extend him. Geoff Neal is. I actually thought he was on a longer winning streak than he was. He's only on a 2-fight winning streak against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who has just fallen off a cliff since he had all that time out.
Yeah.
And then he rebounded with a big finish victory over Vicente Luque, becoming the first person to stop Vicente Luque with strikes.
Yeah.
I just think Shavkat's going to be too well-rounded for him. If you look at the wins that Geoff Neal's got, biggest win, Bilal Muhammad, which is a phenomenal win.
Great win.
But then, Nico Price didn't go the distance, or shock. Nico Price, I think, has gone the distance once and drawn, so it's kind of ironic. Mike Perry finishes him in the first round. Well, yeah, because Mike Perry's not a very good fighter. Loses to Stephen Thompson, loses to Neal Magny, beats Ponzinibbio on a split, and then finishes Vicente Luque.
He's a great gatekeeper. He's a very good gatekeeper.
Phenomenal. Right? And I think, if this was anyone else not Shavkat Rakhmonov, I'd probably pick Geoff Neal, because I think Geoff Neal's just hitting that run of form now where he's making that push. But it's Shavkat, for me, I just don't see, yes, he's been caught a couple of times in his career, but he's 16-0 with 16 finishes, 8 submissions, 8 knockouts. Mm-hmm. He's the best prospect that no one's talking about. And, we talk about him because we know MMA. We follow this sport religiously. Yeah. If you show people a picture of him and a picture of Khamzat,
I know
which one of these 2 guys do you recognize? They're probably going to say Khamzat Chimaev, despite the fact that Rakhmonov, in my opinion, has a higher ceiling than Chimaev. And he's professionally makes weight. But...
yeah, he makes weight. Khamzat also looks like a fighter. If someone showed me a picture of Shavkat and was like, this guy sells cars, so I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's what he looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He could do anything. He doesn't have that fighter face. Anyway, sorry, it was totally an aside. I think maybe it's easier of like, what's next for Shavkat? He moves closer to the top 5. I think he'd be number 6, if not top 5. What's next for him? It's only what's the word that we're looking for? It's only killers ahead of him at that point. That's pretty impressive.
What I'm worried about for Shavkat is that he becomes a little bit like Leon Edwards, where he's just avoided.
Yeah, probably.
He's not a massive knee. He's ranked number 9 at the moment. It's just gone up 1 in the rankings, which
cool, great.
Yeah, why not? Who knows? Hasn't fought for ages, but yeah, why not? If he does beat Geoff Neal, like you say, he probably overtakes Geoff Neal and becomes number 7. But then who do you fight? Kamaru Usman obviously booked with Leon. Colby Covington out at the moment. Khamzat probably fighting at 185 next.
Yes, that's what he said.
Bilal Muhammad.
That's a risky for both of them.
Bilal's looking for a fight with Colby, and then obviously Gilbert's getting the money fight with Jorge Masvidal, and you don't fight down as, no disrespect, but he doesn't fight as Stephen Thompson, because I think he's slightly beyond Stephen Thompson now. So, we'll have to see on Saturday night if he wins. If it wasn't obvious enough, picking him to win.
Yeah, no doubt.
Probably by submission again. No disrespect to Geoff Neal, but I think his ground game's just superior. And, I think he moves on to 17-0 with 17 finishes.
Awesome stuff. I agree with you. Co-sign on all that. Hey, how about this late replacement fight, which is just like, Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalin Turner. This is and Mateusz saw the opportunity to get that win bonus, and he was like, "I'm gonna take it," because this is a really tough fight for Jalin Turner. Stop me when I'm wrong here. What do you think? What do you make of it?
Is this fight better than the original?
Oh, absolutely it is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. And it was a good fight before too, but this is a better fight.
I mean, if I'm Jalin Turner, I'm thinking I'm number 10, I'm fighting ranked number 11, Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker breaks his arm or breaks his wrist or his hand or whatever. And Jalin Turner's probably thinking, right, I'm going to have to fight someone outside of the top 15 just to stay on the card. I'm training for this. I'm ready. Mateusz Gamrot throws his cap in the ring. He's like, right, I can fight up. I can fight someone ranked higher than the guy that I was scheduled to fight. Right, you're ranked number 7. I rank number 10. Where's someone send me the contract quicker and give me a pen. With that being said, I think it's a much tougher fight.
I think so too.
A much tougher fight because Dan Hooker is a stand and bang warrior.
With lots of holes, you can bait Dan Hooker into different things. Mateusz Gamrot,
you can get Dan Hooker into a wild fight. Mateusz Gamrot, I think, unless he's down on the cards like we saw him last time out against Beneil Dariush, where he has to chase the fight, I think Mateusz Gamrot is calculated. He's a lot more sort of sensible in there, and he's a lot more well-rounded than Dan Hooker, in my opinion. He'll look to ground Jalin Turner.
Yes.
If you can't get it to the ground, okay, that's not a problem. I will strike with you until I can get it to the ground. Remember that fight was it Gamrot and Sarukian?
Yes, it was. I was going to talk about that one.
Wrestling exchange.
Scramble after scramble. Yeah.
I'm not sure if Jalin Turner can deal with that kind of pace and scramble. With that being said, if you look at his last 5 fights, ground and pound finish, rear naked choke, knockout finish, mounted guillotine choke of Brad Riddell. And that mounted guillotine choke came after he dropped Brad Riddell and then jumped on the neck. I think Gamrot's got to be careful. Just not I don't want to say aimlessly shooting in, because that's not the kind of guy that we know. Gamrot doesn't just aimlessly shoot in, but he's got to be careful when he is shooting in, because Jalin Turner, he's 6'3" and makes 155, which is ridiculous. But he's got these long limbs where he can snatch a neck if Gamrot's not careful, and I can see Jalin Turner snatching a neck, but I can also see Gamrot just going in there 15 minutes, getting back in that win column and progressing on, which would be, for me, a really good win for Mateusz Gamrot. Obviously, he's coming off the loss to Beneil Dariush, where he was, let's be honest, battered. Beneil Dariush dominated Gamrot, and I can see him looking to bounce back with a kind of statement domination victory over 15 minutes of Jalin Turner. But on the same page, I can see Jalin Turner snatching a neck. It's a confusing one for me to pick, but I'm excited for it without a doubt.
Yeah, Mateusz Gamrot just has that really fun, exciting style that we had. Like just various scrambles, just an amazing fight with Arman Tsarukyan, who's just down for scrambles. Beneil Dariush a little bit quicker on kind of securing positions, and now because of that win, Beneil Dariush is now the next guy probably in line for the lightweight title. So he's a highly skilled fighter, former KSW champion, and I'm going to be picking Mateusz Gamrot all day in that one. Let's move on to Bo Nickal versus Jamie Pickett. Bo Nickal, he's coming off. His collegiate wrestling career is flippin' insane. Like, he has better NCAA credentials than Daniel Cormier and Mark Coleman, like, combined. He's a super promising prospect. That's almost an understatement. It's coming off the Dana White Contender Series. Can he put it together in the middleweight division? It's a very fresh division for him or a very prime division for a wrestler to come in and take everything. But can he get past Jamie Pickett? What do we think? What do we make here?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
setup.
This is a setup fight.
Of course you can. No disrespect to Pickett. I quite like Jamie Pickett. I like the way he fights because he's a long guy that, but he's 2-4 in the UFC, not including his fights in the Contender Series.
And Bo Nickal's only 3-0, so it's not a mismatch. Like he's very,
Jamie Pickett's had 21 professional fights.
Yeah. Bo's had 3. So it's not
But
it's not
but
poorly matched, but it should be a Bo Nickal win.
it's a logic to me. It's a logical matchup. You want to kind of build Bo Nickal. For me, I would have put this headline in the prelims, not opening up the main card, because I don't see it.
Yeah.
You know, if Jamie Pickett can protect his neck, and I don't see it being that interesting a fight, because Bo Nickal will come out. I don't think he'll look to strike with Jamie Pickett. I think he'll just look. How I can see this fight going is Bo Nickal goes in there, pretty much lifts Jamie Pickett above his head, gets the crowd going, dumps him on his head, and then submits him and says, "Look, anyone in the middleweight division, I'm here," kind of thing. And that's how I see this fight going.
Yeah.
They don't put this kind of, you know, I know it doesn't mean an awful lot, but putting Bo Nickal on in UFC 4, when I think, you know, just looking up the card, I'm not convinced that Alexa Grasso is in it. Jeff Neal and Shavkat aren't on it. Mateusz Gamrot and Jalin Turner aren't on it. You know, Dricus Plessis isn't on it. You know, they're pushing this guy, and rightfully so. You know, like you say, he's got credentials to be pushed.
Yes.
But there's a reason that they've given him Jamie Pickett and not a wrestler.
I know. They put him on the main card. It's a display fight. He should be able to win. It doesn't look like a mismatch on paper because 3-0 is not an insane amount. Like, remember the French Commission said the world champion French I forget his name now, but they were like, yeah, 3 fights is not enough. Well, the UFC disagrees. 3 fights is plenty. His only wrestling loss, so if you're going to come at me with like Bo Nickal, NCAA, what do you do in the Olympics? He lost the trials to the guy who won gold. Like, calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
If he went to the Olympics instead of David Taylor, he probably would have won gold. No question asked. He is an incredible wrestler. If his body can stay in shape, if he can stay healthy, he might be a champion 2024, or at least at the very least fighting for a title 2024 to 2025. Like, that's not an insane thing to say with his credentials.
No, for sure. And I mean, he's 27, so he's not yet hit his peak.
Yeah.
He trains out of ATT, so it's not like he's going to come underprepared in the stand-up game. You know, the guys at ATT won't allow him to do that. You know, we were talking yesterday about a piece that I've got coming out about Ronda Rousey, who got by because she was so far elite in her judo game with pretty amateurish striking. Yeah. This won't happen with Bo Nickal. They won't allow him to enter a fight with amateurish striking. To be honest, I don't think Bo Nickal would have trained a single wrestling takedown in his first 6 months of training MMA, because why would you? A lifetime of wrestling, learn some hands, which is, as we've seen in his first 3 fights, he has done.
Cedric Douambe. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, sorry.
But and he's got. It's not like he's coming from a boxing background where, if he gets taken down, he's struggling. He comes from a wrestling background where he will be able to take down Jamie Pickett and probably the next 6 or 7 guys that he faces.
Yeah, no problem.
And like you say, I wouldn't say throw him in there with Alex Pereira yet, but that's a bad matchup for Pereira in the future. Let's be honest.
On paper.
And can you imagine if we have Bo Nickal versus Alex Pereira in say the end of this year? Both guys with a combined under 20 fights. It just shows that you don't have to be a lifetime MMA competitor to really cut it at the top. But no, I think Bo Nickal gets it done. Like I say, I wouldn't have maybe had him opening up the main card. I probably would have had him headlining the prelims because he's more of a crossover star. You get that American wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But then maybe they've done that so that the American wrestling fan pays for the pay-per-view. I'm not sure how they kind of decide on that, but it's exciting.
Yeah, it is, and there's a huge contingent of like U.S. wrestling. Like it is a bunch of people who participated in wrestling. We're all watching it, and I think it's having a moment right now. NCAA is on ESPN and stuff or NCAA D1 wrestling is on ESPN. Anyway, let's move down to the prelim headliner. Instead of Bo Nickal, promising near Olympic wrestler, they put 2 meatheads. And we might walk away sad. And I don't want to call Cody Garbrandt a meathead because in his prime, he was not a meathead. He was one of the most skilled fighters. He was a smart striker. And now he fights like a meathead. And he's fighting Trevin Jones. I think we're just going to be sad. I can't see this being a fun one to enjoy.
Well, I cannot understand what's happened to Cody Garbrandt since I think that fight against Dominic Cruz is one of the biggest and most shocking schoolings that I've ever seen.
He out Dominic Cruzed. He did the Dominic Cruz game better than Dominic Cruz did. That was insane. But he did it once in his entire career.
That's the thing. That's the thing. He did it once. And, when he fought Thomas Almeida, he was 8-0. Thomas Almeida was 21-0. We're thinking, oh, God, this is... And then Thomas Almeida's fallen off a cliff. Dominic Cruz, since that fight, I don't think, has been the Dominic Cruz that we're kind of used to seeing. He returned after that fight, lost to Henry Cejudo, back-to-back wins, then lost to Marlon Vera last time out with that, I call it a head kick, but it's a nose kick. He kicked his nose across the other side of his face. But
amazing.
In that fight, I've watched it so many times, not just in the run up to this week, but I've it's maybe one of the fights that I've watched the most in my life, because I'm just so surprised about how he did what he did. Not only did he land on him and cut him, he dropped him 3 or 4 times. He was dancing in there, but it's just he had the wherewithal to get into a violent exchange with Dominic Cruz, slip under the hook, snatch the double leg and take Cruz down. Where was that against TJ Dillashaw twice? Where was that against Pedro Munoz? Where was that against Kai Kara France last time out? He was dominated by Rob Font on the feet. Yes, he got the sort of comeback knockout of Rafael Assunção, but even if you just watch that knockout, as you were saying, it's kind of a meathead knockout. He kind of leans against the fence and just wings a big overhand right.
I know.
Trevin Jones is a good matchup for him because, like you say, Trevin Jones is here for a scrap, and I don't think Trevin Jones is going to look to take Cody Garbrandt down. I just really hope that, like I say, I'm a Garbrandt fan after that.
Absolutely.
After that Dominic Cruz fight, because of just how much he kind of shocked me.
Yeah,
I think he's a great personality. 31 years old now. I think he could put another 2 or 3 wins together, but he's been down. He's lost a lot of bantamweight. He's cut even more weight now, down to flyweight. Kai Kara France knocked him out. He's had 3 cancelled bouts since that fight. He's been over a year and a bit out. But what you're going to get with Cody Garbrandt is he's never in a boring fight, whether he's getting battered or if he's battering someone. He's never in a boring fight.
Yes.
Which is a good thing, I guess. I think Trevin Jones and Julio Arce and Randy Yaha, the 2 guys, and now obviously Trevin Jones, he was, scheduled to fight Randy Yaha and Julio Arce, and now obviously he's got Trevin Jones. I think this is probably Cody Garbrandt's level at this point in his career.
I know.
And I'm not mad about it. Stay at 135, don't cut any more weight, because he was a big 135er. And obviously 125 took even more off his chin. No. I hope Cody Garbrandt gets the win in this one, just because I don't want to see Cody Garbrandt get knocked out again. I'm not, I have no interest in seeing that. Is a late notice for Trevin Jones, so maybe Cody does. Cody's a phenomenal wrestler. Look to wrestle these guys. Look to take these guys. I know you like the boxing and the striking. You got these fast, heavy hands, but snatch a double leg. Just for the first round, snatch a double leg. Trevin Jones is coming in here on short notice. Snatch a double leg. Really deplete your guy's gas tank, and then you can strike with him, because then he's maybe not as dangerous. You'll be the faster guy when he's tired, but we know what we're going to get from Cody Garbrandt. He's going to go in there. He's going to plant his feet. His feet are going to be cemented to the inner octagon, as it were, and he's just going to swing wild hooks. And if he lands first, he probably knocks Trevin Jones out. If Trevin Jones lands first, he probably knocks No Love out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited for this one because Cody Garbrandt, like I say, is never in a boring fight.
Yeah, here's how we use stats in sports quite a bit of the time, because this is very like. Let me read it out to you, but. This is Trevin Jones is a southpaw. Cody Garbrandt is an orthodox. Cody Garbrandt has never lost to a southpaw in his UFC career, and Trevin Jones has never defeated an orthodox fighter in his UFC career. And then now the obvious answer is like, yeah, well, Trevin Jones has barely won in his UFC career. So it's often like we use stats to like make a narrative happen. But yeah, it is going to be the open side, and he's going to be throwing the big right hook on the open side against the southpaw. I think this is a setup to get Cody Garbrandt back in the win column again, and good. Like, fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't want to see that guy's brain get separated from. I don't want to see him get separated from consciousness again, because it's it's what TJ Dillashaw twice, Pedro Munoz took a battering against Rob Font. Yes, he did Rafael Assunção. Then he was knocked out whilst having cut an extra 10 pounds against Kai Kara France last time out.
That was a bad one.
I don't want to see that guy's brain sort of shut off anymore. And not that I want to see Trevin Jones get knocked out. I quite like Trevin Jones,
Me
but
too.
you know, Cody Garbrandt, go out there, wrestle Trevin Jones to a boring decision and barely throw a punch. No, I'm not bothered. I just want to see him back in the win column at this point.
Absolutely. Let's move down to this card is solid, isn't it? This is a very good card. Derek Brunson versus Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis is kind of a hot prospect. People are kind of like in between on where his skills are. Derek Brunson, very solid wrestler, inconsistent at times, or just like bad at the in-between kind of spaces. The transitions from stand-up to wrestling is his kind of rough spot. What do you think of this fight? What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to predict because Derek Brunson, can he sort of regain the post Jared Cannonier form when he was looking like a killer? It was Darren Till that he defeated, and it was Kevin Holland, it was Edmund Shabazian, it was Ian Heinisch. Dricus du Plessis has looked phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
But I think at a level down from the guys that Derek Brunson. Obviously, they both hold a finished victory over Darren Till. For me, Dricus du Plessis, I don't know if he's got a gas tank or not because he looks constantly tired. But
yes,
from what he said, no, it's just the way I breathe. I breathe with my mouth open, and he didn't look to gas against Darren Till.
He took a
although he
off.
looks tired, although he looked tired, he's a massive middle. He's a big muscular guy, so that lactic acid is going to build up. I can see Dricus getting this one done. But then I can also see Derek Brunson just kind of, taking Dricus du Plessis down and holding him there for 10 to 12 minutes and then getting beaten up on the feet for the last three, but just doing enough in the first two. I think my official prediction is probably going to be Derek Brunson, but at 18-2, riding a big win streak for Dricus du Plessis, having, this isn't a win streak where he's just done it on the local South African circuit.
Yeah.
It's KSW. He is, it's not, like I say, it's not like he's just doing it on a local South African circuit that no one's ever heard of. It's KSW, it's the UFC. Yeah. He's highly skilled, but I think Derek Brunson's been doing this for a lifetime, it seems like, and I think that sort of experience might just pay dividends.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't have given Dricus du Plessis a rising fighter. They couldn't have given him a tougher matchup. You know, exactly. This is Derek Brunson.
I believe he called for it after his win against Darren Till. So I'm here for it.
He called out the gatekeeper. He knows, like, I got to beat the gate. Okay, let's move on. We're running out of time, so we'll just kind of do 1 minute on each fight because they're worth talking about. Vivian Araujo versus Amanda Ribas or Ribas.
I didn't realize this fight was on this card. I know Ribas was scheduled to fight Tracy Cortez at the end of last year. Cortez had to pull out, I think, on the day of weigh-ins or the day before weigh-ins. These two women at flyweight, they need to put on a good performance to really sort of, with the flyweight title fight, they need to put on a good performance. And I can see a good fight. Two Brazilians really going at it. Ribas back up at 125 now.
It's a fun one.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'll pick Araujo in that one. Let's do Julian Marquez versus Marc-Andre Barral.
Again, heavy hitting the Cuban Missile Crisis, Julian Marquez against essentially a wrestler in Marc-Andre Barral.
Yeah, it's a tough
Check out James Lynch's interview with Julian Marquez on the YouTube channel. It's a really good one. But I'm picking Marquez in that one. I think he just catches him, and he's so heavy handed. It's great. He's a great watch.
It's really tough to do tape study on Julian Marquez because it just ends up leading to Kendra Lust, and you just kind of like get. Anyway, let's move on. Ian Gary's on it. He's fighting Song Kinan. I'm not overly familiar with Song, so I'm probably not going to say anything.
No, I'm not overly happy with this matchup. Ian Gary 3-0 now, and I think he deserves a little bit of a bigger step up than someone who's coming off a loss in the first round by TKO to Max Griffin. I don't know why Ian Gary isn't fighting Max Griffin. I'm not sure if Max has got a fight booked. Mm-hmm. But Ian Gary, I think after his debut against, I think it was Jordan Williams, who's obviously now been cut from the UFC. He's fought Darian Weeks to a decision. He's fought Gabe Green to a decision. I don't think his career's quite took off maybe the way that he predicted. But, he's 10-0 and he's a young guy. So I think, he's 25. So he's got the world ahead of him. But I would have expected a slight step up in competition, but it is what it is. Ian Gary will get this one done probably by finish.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think this is meant to kind of kick it off in a certain way. He's a hot prospect. They're probably trying to get him win. Next one, Baby Shark Tabitha Ricci. Can she get past the gatekeeper Jessica Penne? It's
Yes.
actually it's a very good fight. Okay, go ahead. You've seen Tabitha
I
in this
just
one.
I just think that she can, she's 3-0 in the sorry, she's 2-1 in the UFC, 3 fights in the UFC, but with her only loss coming to Manon Fiorot,
Yeah.
she's only lost once in her career to Manon Fiorot. Jessica Penne is, she's coming the other side of the mountain, whereas Ricky's, they're sort of is
Yeah.
what we literally call a crossover fight. One girl's on her way up, Jessica Penne is certainly on her way down. If Tabitha Ricci can hit that calf kick like Emily Ducote did last time out, I think we've got a real problem for Jessica Penne in this one.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you. I think this is a Tabitha fight. There's 3 other fights on the card that we haven't talked about. Do you want to throw anything on those ones?
Just Cameron Salmon, obviously, I think he's a teammate of Dricus du Plessis, 22 years old. Really started with he's got a finish on the Contender Series, and then in his UFC debut, he got a standing TKO against Stephen Koslow on the Blachowicz versus Ankalaev card at the end of last year. I think that was the same card that Dricus fought Darren Till. So, he is 22 years old, born in the year 2000.
Yeah, I know.
That makes me feel old. Okay, he's 5-0 as an amateur. He's 7-0 as a pro. I'm excited for this one. Taking on Mana Martinez, who I believe. Oh no, okay, yeah, he's coming off a split decision victory. I thought he'd just been dominated by Ronnie Lawrence, but no, yeah, it's going to be a win for the South African contingent, and he's going to be hoping to get that win. So that I think it's Dricus du Plessis, either his coach or his teammate. He's going to be wanting to carry that momentum into Dricus's fight with Derek Brunson, but. Yeah, for me, it's all about Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane. We've got so many questions that need to be answered, and I'm so excited for the fight itself.
So many variables. All the writing links and further social media links will be down below. Appreciate you guys joining us for the UFC 285 major breakdown. Frazer, last word goes to you. What do you got going on?
Yeah, just make sure you keep it locked to MMA Sucka. We'll be there with staff picks, results, previews, breakdowns, and whatnot. And then obviously me and Tim will jump on next week. It's going to be a long one next week, I can predict, because we've got UFC breakdown and we've got a really good fight night card. I believe it's the Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili fight night card to break down. So, expect, we're going to be doing plenty of tape study on Jones and Gane. And then, like I said, we'll jump into a bit of a preview next week. But yeah, we'll all eyes on Las Vegas this weekend, or will it be California, depending on Jon Jones? We don't know these days. We don't know these days. I hope not to jinx it, but we'll see.
Thanks so much for your time, Frazer.
Thank you.